What is going on, YouTube universe? My name is Trent and welcome to the Hip and Shoulder, the channel where we discuss everything Australian rules football. And for the final time for the 2024 AFL Home and Away season, it is time for us to get our tips in. It has flown by so quick. This year has gone just like that, and for some, it's exciting because your teams are going to be playing finals. For others, we're in for a world of hurt in the way of just having to wait through a off season of boredom until pre-season rolls back around again. Before we get our tips in for round 24 though, let's take a bit of a reflection on round 23. I tipped 3 out of 9 again. Back to back 3 out of 9. I have tried so hard to try to stick to a process, but also try to go out on a limb with some selections to kind of work my way up the leaderboard, and it has blown up in my face severely. We tipped Sydney against Essendon correctly. We went by 15 points. It was much more than that. We then lost by tipping Gold Coast against Melbourne, Fremantle against GWS, and Brisbane against Collingwood. We redeemed ourselves with Port Adelaide against Adelaide, but then we went on a bit of a slump again, tipping Geelong to beat St Kilda and North Melbourne to defeat the Bulldogs. What the fuck was I thinking? We tipped Hawthorn to defeat Richmond, and then we tipped West Coast to defeat Carlton, and we know how that went down. So 3 out of 9 for myself. Absolutely terrible, and unfortunately it has put me well out of reach of finishing top 10 in my own competition this year, and it will be the worst finish I have had in the 5 or 6 years I've done footy tipping competitions for. It is upsetting, especially given that we've done it on a brand new platform for the first time, but we do need to take the time to appreciate the players that did tip the most correct amount of tips in my competition this week, which was 6 out of 9, and there was quite a few. So congratulations must go to Lucas iGod 44, Gramercy Riffs 78, Some Cripple, Frio 90, Maj Tigers 77, and Saintly 12. A few of those names have been around here. Actually, all of those names have been around here for a very long time. So congratulations to all of you guys for tipping the most correct amount of tips for round 23. And looking at the leaderboard heading into the final round, this is how we are situated for our top 10. In first place, we have in 10th place, we have Saintly 12 on 123 tips, and equal to that, we have Benny Craig in 9th place, also on 123 tips. In 8th place, we have Maj Tigers 77 on 124 tips, led by Team Wiggles in 7th place on 125, as well as Frio 90 in 6th place on 125. Mikey is a Rat is in 5th place on 126, equal to Pommy Tiger in 4th place on 126. In 3rd place, we have Some Cripple with 127, Dusty Fendoff 4 in 2nd place with 128, and leading the competition by 3 tips, and very well could take out this competition from this point, and has been front running for a few rounds now. My man Dan Cash, Daniel P, 1st placed overall. Congratulations, Dan Cash, for finishing the round yet again on top of the ladder, and congratulations to my top 10. Also, again, just to thank everybody for getting on board this year. I know it was a new venture. It's been a bit of a slow burn. Hopefully next year we can do things bigger and better. We can get more people involved. It is going to be great, I hope. Turning our attention to the final round of football, we have some big ins and outs for all games, respectively. Kicking off tonight at the MCG, Melbourne hosting Collingwood. Collingwood's still a mathematical chance for finals to go down, but it's going to be very slim pickings. I believe St Kilda have to beat Carlton in the way of 200 points in order for the percentage gap to be made up for Collingwood to sneak in. So, out of the realm of possibility, but there is a universe, I think, where this does happen. But for Melbourne tonight, Tom Sparrow is out with Bailey Laurie coming in. And for Collingwood, we have Billy Frampton, Jack Bytel, Daniel McStay, and Ned Long all out for Collingwood, with Charlie Dean, Edward Allen, Finlay McRae, and Joe Richards all coming in. all young kids respectively too. So it's good to see Fly rolling the dice and allowing young kids to get opportunity, because I feel some players like Finlay McRae might be on the out and might be wanting to seek a trade for better opportunities, because Collingwood has a midfield that is so set in stone right now that, you know, opportunities don't come knocking all too often, and it's only when we have players injured or some omissions happen that we see players like Finlay McRae popping up. So keep an eye on players like him when it comes to player movement during the trade period this year. I'll definitely be following that. Looking at how both these teams performed last week, we have Melbourne coming off of a huge win against the Gold Coast at People's First Stadium. Collingwood coming from behind in an emphatic 1-point victory over Brisbane at the MCG. Neither team's fighting for anything but respect, realistically, here. And I feel Collingwood are going to get the job done against Melbourne tonight and finish off their season with a win. They're going to miss finals after being the premiers for 2023 and being the standard bearer for 12 months. But injury, I think, has played a lot into that. And it just shows that how integral having a fit team throughout the entire season and having certain players available to you throughout the season can impact and make and break a club completely. I mean, we've seen the drop-off with Richmond with how bad the injury list has been there. But I think Collingwood redeem themselves, and I think they get a win later tonight. Saturday afternoon kicks off at the Gabba with Brisbane hosting Essendon. This will be Dyson Heppell's farewell game for Essendon, having announced that he will be retiring. For Essendon, we have Sam Wiedemann and Jai Menzies making way for Dyson Heppell and Matt Guelphy. For the Lions, Brandon Starcevich and Shadow Brain make way for Connor McKenna and Noah Answorth. I don't think this is going to be a happy send-off for Essendon. I think at the Gabba, Brisbane are going to be licking their chops here. They're going to get a pretty big win. I'm thinking the way of 6+ goals. It's going to be bittersweet for Essendon supporters, because for many, they've been lauding the fact that they're going to play finals this year. They're going to, you know, break that curse and they're going to finally win a final. They were sitting primed for the top 4 for so long and then dropped off the face of the earth and are going to miss finals after, you know, being really given an incredibly soft run home in the way of not having to leave Melbourne. The teams that they have come up against have been winnable games, but they've just fumbled those. I don't see any realm where they come here and they upset Brisbane, especially with Brisbane having finals and a grand final spot quite, you know, in their line of sight, and the bullseye is right on it. GMHBA Stadium, Saturday afternoon, Geelong taking on West Coast. For Geelong, O'Shane Mullen, Mitch Nevitt and Gary Rowan are all out. We have Zach Tui coming in for his final AFL game after announcing his retirement. Jed Buse and Tanner Brun coming in. For West Coast, some big outs. We have Alex Witherden, Jeremy McGovern, Andrew Gaff, Liam Ryan and Zane True all out of the lineup. Rhett Bazzo, Clay Hall, Campbell Chesser, Ryan Marriage and Jack Hutchinson all come in. A lot of experience lost, a lot of quality lost for West Coast. Young kids getting opportunity to shine yet again, but I think the loss of McGovern, Witherden, Gaff, Ryan, especially Witherden and McGovern, that's going to open up opportunity for Geelong's forward line to go absolutely ballistic, and Geelong are going to win this game quite convincingly, locking up a top 4 spot. Down in Tasmania, we have Hawthorn taking on North Melbourne, and you couldn't have written the script any better for Liam Shields. Starts his career at Hawthorn under Alastair Clarkson, announces his retirement this week, and ends his career at North Melbourne under Alastair Clarkson. Brilliant. For Hawthorn, a lot on the line in this game, because if they lose to North Melbourne, they miss finals after being one of the most informed teams in the competition over the last month and a half. They will be without Will Day this week after sustaining that collarbone injury last week against Richmond. Finn McGuinness comes in, which is going to be huge for Hawthorn, because he'll go straight to Luke Davies Uniacke. Did I say Davies? I meant Davies. Luke Davies Uniacke, and he's going to lock him down quite severely. Harry Sheezel's still a no-go for North Melbourne, carrying an injury. They've obviously played the safe route with him. Nothing really to play for, so why would you risk him? Charlie Comben, Miller Bergman and Eddie Ford all out. Charlie Comben probably being the bigger of the three outs there. Will Phillips, Toby Pink and Blake Jury all come in. Phillips again probably going to play a clampdown role. Expect him to run with either James Worpel or Jai Newcomb. I would probably pick Jai Newcomb out of the two. With finals on the line here after a huge win against Richmond last week, expect Hawthorn to come out and do an absolute number on North Melbourne. I'm thinking 40 plus points, lock in their final spot, and they become the official dark horse of the final series. I know I've been saying that for Fremantle for months, but there is no denying the forward half of Hawthorn is one of the best currently in the competition. When they get their rebound game going, they look unstoppable. They could do the most damage outside of the top four of any team currently looking to play finals this season. Speaking of scripts and scripting things that couldn't be written any better, Richmond versus the Gold Coast at the MCG fits that bill again. Dustin Martin a few weeks ago announcing his retirement effective immediately, gets the opportunity to come in front of the Tiger Army at the MCG one last time and give us opportunity to bow out one of the champions of the game. A first ballot Hall of Famer, he'll end up being an AFL legend when his time comes. He gets to do it against previous coach Damien Hardwick. It is written so incredibly well, but there is more now on the line for Richmond, because since that announcement, we have had Premiership player and ex-captain Dylan Grimes announce his retirement from the game, which again is a big loss. Probably not over the last couple of years because he's kind of dropped off a little bit, but he's been one of the best role players defensively we have had during our Premiership run. Marlion Pickett announced his retirement from the game, falling just short of 100 games, has one of the best AFL debuts in history, I believe, has registered one of the biggest crowd receptions after kicking his first goal in that grand final that I've ever heard. He'll go down as one of the all-time, grand final memories, I feel, especially as a Richmond fan, for Richmond-based grand finals at least. We also have Sam Naismith suffering another ACL, which broke my heart when he did that, and, it's kind of added up. He's now retired as well. Everybody's just kind of announcing retirements left, right and centre at Richmond. We've also got the exodus of all these players leaving. Could be the last time we see Liam Baker, we see Shai Bolton, we see Daniel Rioli, and we see Jack Graham, all in Richmond colours. It's huge. This game is huge, and I really hope Richmond come up to play here, because we've got some pretty big ins. Jacob Blight, James Trezise and Matthew Coulthard make way for Maurice Rioli Jr., Liam Baker and Marlon Pickett. Huge ins for us. Marlon Pickett brings a lot of defensive and tackling pressure. Liam Baker is just a Richmond, man through and through, and embodies what Tiger Tough is. He just throws himself at every contest. Maurice Rioli has come back through the VFL incredibly well. We've missed his tackling pressure inside the forward 50. Hopefully we see him a little bit more around the ball as well. That'd be great. I'm a little bit upset that Blight and Trezise have missed out here, especially Blight. I rate Blight incredibly. However, looking at how the team lineup has been generated, Noah Bolter seems to be playing at full back this week. Probably will get the game on Ben King. So you can't really play Noah Bolter, Nathan Broad, Ben Miller. We can't have four tools. We've got to kind of mix it up a little bit. And unfortunately, Jacob Blight misses out as much as I would love to see him in. For the Gold Coast, David Swallow and Jed Walter make way for Alex Sexton and Jack Lukosius. Could be the last game where Jack Lukosius pulls on the Gold Coast jumper, because he is apparently met with both South Adelaide-based teams. Whether he plays for Adelaide or Port Adelaide, I don't know. If we get a retirement from Charlie Dixon, I could see him fitting in at Port Adelaide. However, Lukosius and Riley Thilthorpe being the two main spearheads at Adelaide, with Darcy Fogarty playing as your third tall, that could be a very tasty kind of matchup as well. Personally, I would love to see Richmond target Jack Lukosius if there was any deal to be made for Daniel Rioli, but that's just me. Who am I tipping for this game? I'm hoping to fuck Richmond can just rise to the occasion for all the retirees. We've got one last game. We probably still finish on the bottom of the ladder anyway, because our percentage is worse than North Melbourne's. let's roll the dice. Let's say Richmond wins this game, and let's hope, just for my sake, for Dusty's sake, for Grimes, for Pickett, that we can pick up a win to end our year. And Saturday night rounds out at the SCG with Sydney hosting Adelaide. For Sydney, Corey Warner and Tom McCartan are out. Tom McCartan is huge. Aaron Francis comes in for him, and Chad Warner returns to the midfield core. For Adelaide, Mark Keane, Isaac Rankin, Lachlan Gallant, and Josh Rochelle all miss. Rochelle is an omission from apparently being down on form. I don't know whether this is also a drive-by for the cheeky Port Adelaide comments he made during the week. I've seen a lot of people talking about the fact that, Josh Rochelle should look at potentially moving because of the way he's been handled at Adelaide. So let's keep an eye on him when it comes to trade talk and player movement in the off-season. We have James Borlase, Chase Jones, Taylor Walker, and Billy Dowling all coming in for Adelaide. Mark Keane being out is huge for Adelaide because he has arguably been their best defender. Isaac Rankin takes a lot of speed out of that midfield and takes X Factor out from in front of the goals. Josh Rochelle is also, I feel, the player that can be a match winner. He might be down on form, but he still adds something to this team. Chad Warner coming back in is huge for Adelaide. Tom McCartan, I said, is going to be the biggest omission for them, or loss for them. I'm still going to back Sydney to win. They'll lock up their top, 4 spot, their first overall placing, and take out a minor premiership with hopes of taking out the premiership. The first of 3 on Sunday sees Carlton taking on St Kilda at Marvel Stadium. A lot on the line in this game too, because if Carlton lose, their season is done. If Carlton win, I still think there is a potential for them to lose dependent on how other teams perform. So, very interesting watch this particular game. As these are Sunday games, at this point in time, there are no confirmed outs for all teams. Obviously, St Kilda has an out named here, but not every team has listed their outs yet. They've just got extended benches listed for the availability of players. So for Carlton, Adam Sard, Charlie Curnow, Orazio Fantasia, all available to come back and probably will all come back. For St Kilda, Anthony Caminiti is out. Mateus Philippou, Jack Hayes, Tom Campbell, and Angus McLennan, all named as potential ins here. I tend to think St Kilda can cause an upset here at Marvel Stadium. However, if Carlton have Charlie Curnow coming back into the team, can they shut him down if they are still missing Harry Mackay? It is easier to do so. I'm going to roll the dice here. I'm going to say St Kilda. St Kilda in an upset to just boil over the Carlton's, entire season. I can feel it coming. Rowan Marshall is in some red hot form. Jack Steele and his defensive pressure around the contest is insane. If they had more players in the way of Harry Mackay playing so they can't shut down 2 and 1 can get off the chain, I can understand that. But they'll be easily able to lock down Charlie Curnow between the likes of Dougal Howard and Callum Wilkie. This could very well be the last game that we see Josh Battle play for St Kilda, with Hawthorn coming after him quite heavily. But we've got to roll the dice sometimes with some upsets, and I feel St Kilda have very big cause for an upset here against the Blues. We then shift our attention to Optus Stadium. This game still has bearing on outcome, because if Carlton win but Fremantle win, I think Fremantle effectively knock Carlton out anyway. So anybody who wants Carlton to miss the finals this year, hanging their hat on Fremantle defeating Port Adelaide at their home ground. No outs listed for Fremantle yet, but we have Michael Walters, Neil Erasmus, and James Aish all named as ins. Still no Josh Tracy, which is the biggest out for Fremantle, and I feel they are still very much missing Alex Pearce in defence. For Port Adelaide, no Dan Houston for the rest of the year. If they make the grand final, he will not be there. His 5-game suspension for concussing Isaac Rankin stands, and Quinton Narkle is out as well. We have Mitch Georgiades, Dante Vicenti, Josh Sin, Jed McKenty, and Ollie Lord all named as ins for this game. I would probably select Mitch Georgiades to come in for Quinton Narkle to add something to that forward structure. As for Dan Houston, maybe a Josh Sin to run off of half back. Big game here. Big ramifications. Port Adelaide want to lock up a top 4. Fremantle want to lock up a top 8. They're playing it on their home deck. They've got more riding on this game than Port Adelaide have. I'm backing in Fremantle to not only make the top 8, but to end Carlton's season by doing so. The final game of the round, again, a game with a lot of ramifications. If the Bulldogs lose this game, they are out of the 8. If they win, there are still other kind of outcomes that can go down, which can force them out. This round is so fucking crazy when it comes to things like that. But this is being played down at Mars Stadium, which is going to play in the hand of the Bulldogs quite well. Riley West has been listed as out. The extended bench includes the ins of Tim English, Riley Garcia, Arthur Jones, and Caleb Poulter. While Tim English has been named, Luke Beveridge has come out during the week saying that Tim English is no certainty to play. So keep an eye out for a potential late out if that is the case. For GWS, Lockie Ash is out after suffering a 1-game suspension for a dangerous tackle. Callum Brown, Xavier O'Halloran, Harvey Thomas, and Nick Haynes all named as ins. 2 teams running with a lot of momentum here. 2 teams that are vying for a premiership tilt. I feel personally there is one team that has been playing better than the other. A lot of people have the Western Bulldogs as the number 1 seed in the competition and the most informed team. I think there are teams that are in better form given circumstances. I am going to go with GWS to cause an upset at Mars Stadium against the Bulldogs. GWS could well and truly be in the premiership window here and we could be looking at a Sydney versus GWS grand final, and I wouldn't be opposed to it. Bulldogs need to really take opportunity here and not just win, but make a statement piece. If Tim English is not named, GWS is the lock. I could potentially change my tip closer to the game if that change does happen. If Tim English is in the team, I will probably shift to the Bulldogs, but I think tentatively, knowing that Luke Beveridge has said Tim English is touch and go, I'm just going to play it safe. GWS is my tip. That is it for the final round of the home and away tips for this season. Next week, I will reveal how I tipped and who won the competition overall and how our top 10 fared. But I will still be doing a weekly breakdown of each and every finals week leading up to the grand final, and I will drop a grand final video where we isolate each team individually, how they've performed over the year, which players to look at. We can do kind of a deeper dive as more teams get eliminated, if that makes sense. If that's something you're keen on seeing, let me know in the comment section down below. But that's it from me, guys. I'm out of here. Good luck to your teams this weekend, and as always, I will catch you guys next time.